I feel like I'm a broken record, but I have to say this one last time, hopefully last time. Um, I would like to encourage you, as you're working on the budget, that again, you look at that 1.1 million. I know we've spent a little bit of it this year, but we had the 1.1 million set aside in the budget for the pier project. I would like to encourage you not to let that revert back to the general fund, but that rather you let that roll over into setting up a separate line item for the pier project. I'm not sure exactly what you call that, but I'm sure the manager can tell you how to do that. But that would be my recommendation to you, because once it reverts back to the general fund, then we've lost that identity for those funds, and that was what it was set aside for, was the pier project. So I would like to strongly encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pate. Did we miss anyone that had signed up for public comment? If not, we're on number 3, interview for legal services. What's the commissioner's pleasure? How do you want to go forth?
Like we did for the others.
All right. Would you like to present your,
Yep, I don't
So-
really have much for you guys in terms of a elevator sales pitch or anything like that. I've been practicing law for 8 years now. I am a registered patent attorney, so most of my practice does revolve around intellectual property and business law and working with startups and established businesses. However, over the years, I've worked with other attorneys to learn different areas of law where it can be useful to real life, you know, um, you know, property, contracts, all of the real basics that you actually need to function as a human, and actually comes in handy for my personal life and for helping other people. I also work with a lot of nonprofits locally and just within, I guess, the states that I've been licensed to practice in. I have represented boards as legal counsel, but also sat on boards as a director, so I understand, I guess, what you're dealing with, not to your extent by any means, but I understand the workings of a board and what's necessary to come together and how to at least try to work with you guys. I am licensed to practice in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Kentucky, and that's really about it for me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
all right. Any commissioner like to ask questions?
I'll start. Could you talk a little bit more about what your areas of expertise are, the types of work you could help us with, and then where you feel you would need deeper skills, expertise, specializations to, you know, support us in our needs?
Okay, so really any non-specialized area of the law I'm pretty comfortable with, contracts, property, anything that's really just a non-specialized area. So as a patent attorney, I understand the need for specialists and specializations and how important it is to have people that really, really focus and hone their craft. And, you know, I am not so comfortable with something that would be like a bond attorney, or even for serious environmental issues, environmental law. I want somebody that really, really understands those issues, just because you can't just learn those overnight. And you'd be paying for me to learn it and then do an okay job at it, whereas they know it like the back of their hand and they do a great job of it, and it just makes a lot more sense.
Okay, could you maybe explain how you would engage with them, or a little bit about the network that you would plan to reach out to?
So I have I would say a pretty strong network in this state, mainly out of the Wilmington area, but also out of the Charlotte area as well. If I don't know someone personally that practices the area, somebody that I do know very well and have a lot of faith in knows somebody that practices in the area. I also know the town has some contacts with some very specialized attorneys, so I'm happy to work with any of them.
Before I go too far, I want to thank you for stepping up and helping us when we, you know, no longer had an attorney and needed one. Just kind of looking back at that the last couple months, could you explain a little bit about how we would manage expenses? Like if I were to ask you to do something, what we bill, how we control what could be a, you know, bottomless pit of legal fees if we're, you know, using you more than we probably should?
Well, the hourly is what was in the proposal, and I don't use a paralegal, so it's just me, and it's always me. I bill for the work that's done as I do it. For phone calls, I always bill at half rate, just because I want to encourage people to contact me with anything you need. And then emails, unless there is research that is required to answer the question presented in the email, I don't charge for it.
Okay, and if you were to reach out to somebody in the specialist network, theirs would be a direct pass-through, or do you mark up their fees?
Ideally, the town would pay them directly for their services,
Okay,
and I would not be involved other than CC'd ideally, so I can stay on top of everything.
okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Parkins, I believe you were.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for stepping up to be our interim. That was a rough way for us to start out, and I really appreciate it. So I think you've answered some of the unique skills questions I was going to ask, but why are you interested in being Holden Beach's town attorney?
Well, I feel like, and it was an interim position, totally understand what interim means, so no pressure whatsoever. I just feel like I started something and I'd really like to see it through and work with all of you so that we can get to the best place possible. I enjoy it more than I thought I was going to. Initially, I thought it was really, it felt like an act of martyrdom, to be honest, but it wasn't. It's actually been very enjoyable for the most part. I like working with the town, I like working with the staff, and I enjoy it. I've enjoyed the challenges that I've gotten to deal with, the research I've gotten to do, and what I've been able to learn.
Okay. How will you stay up to date on the changes in laws that affect municipalities like ours?
Well, like any professional, oh gosh, I can't think of the word for it. We have CLEs, continued learning, legal education. They have specific ones for municipal law. I obviously take the ones for patents, but there's only so many of those available per year. I end up doing a lot of criminal law ones because those ones are available, and I never practice criminal law. So I would definitely stack my CLEs in municipal law because it is available. I just never have, or I guess I've taken one, but it's not been something I've stacked my schedule with. They publish a lot. UNC School of Government publishes a lot of articles very regularly. So it's, something I set my alerts to and just keep reading.
Okay, thanks. What is your experience negotiating contracts on behalf of organizations like some of the boards that you've sat on?
I mean, I've negotiated a lot of contracts back and forth, but it's something I've done. I have no problem doing. Do you want further information on that, or?
No,
Okay.
You've done a bunch of it. That's what I'm
Wow.
looking for.
Great.
Last question. If we need to have an impromptu meeting here at Town Hall, what kind of lead time do you need?
Ideally, a day. If it's a day that I am in town and not traveling for another meeting or in Wilmington teaching, I don't need that much of a heads up at all. It's just I need to make sure I can change things around if it's a mandatory meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas?
I just wanted to thank Sydney for stepping up when our previous attorney resigned with no notice. And I just want to say that I understand this is not an easy board to deal with and appreciate your legal advice to the board over the last 4 months. So thank you. I think they've answered my questions that I had.
Mr. Smith? Doc?
My only question, have you ever had any dealings with any other municipalities as far as, or towns or counties as far as municipal government's concerned?
No, I haven't been able, municipal law is something that you really have to build yourself up to, and I haven't been involved with other municipalities yet, but I do have several contacts that are involved or have had a career's worth of municipal law and are very well respected in that area. So I feel very comfortable with people I have to rely on, that I can do a decent job with it.
You got anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you, sir.
Doc, you got anything? Mr. Hewitt? No, sir. Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Miss Christie? Well, we're gonna let her off mighty easy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sydney.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you've done. All right, unless somebody's got a better suggestion, we'll go to number 4 on the agenda. Budget workshop. Mr. Hewitt, you want to address that?
Sure. I'll start off with directing your attention to a couple of omissions in the budget message. I'm assuming everybody brought a budget message with them. Okay. Item on page 15, page 15, the total that's underneath the line titled Professional Services should be 1667171. And then on page 34, the bottom half of the page, in the Beach and Inlet Capital Reserve Fund, everybody on page 34? Beach and Inlet Capital Reserve Fund, coming down to the revenues line, the line titled CRF Beach Interest should be 2058171. And that changes the total for the fund to 2152671. And then likewise, in the expense line titled Capital Reserve Miscellaneous Expense, that line should be 2152671. And there's probably other omissions in there, but those were the two that we've been able to catch so far.
Anything else?
I was just going to refer to page 2 in the executive summary and basically cover some of the main points that the budget presents. In that, the first one, the tax rate is presented at 14 cents, no change from the prior year. The county's increasing the sewer treatment rate by $1, so we got to pass that through to the Holden Beach retail customers. The implementation of year-round paid parking is an item to deal with. The Lift Station 2 upfit, and you'll notice that there's a line item here also called the Greensboro Lift Station upfit. I guess that's not an omission, that's a double. That's a double. It has nothing to do either with the fact that we've taken that thing to bid so far and haven't let it yet. I mean, maybe next year they'll be in there 3 times, but who knows. The peer professional services appropriation for site specificity is included in there. Block Q site improvements to include the bathrooms and stormwater as limited by the board to date. We've also got the ADA compliance initiatives in the budget along with the self-assessment monies. The money for the coastal storm damage reduction study is also in there, along with a $200,000 appropriation for street resurfacing. As always, and as required by the Fiscal Control Act, we have to organize the budget into funds, and our funds are the general fund, the water and sewer fund, and the B-Part fund, in addition to canal dredging. We have 3 capital reserve funds, which is the Water Capital Reserve Fund, the Sewer Capital Reserve Fund, and the Beach and Inlet Management Fund. So those are the lead-in details on it. If there's any other background information unique to any of those funds, I'll be glad to address those. But we've prepared, drafted a budget for you that is balanced and in accordance with what we think were the directives from the board, and would lay it at your feet for debate and consideration. Lastly, probably should have started out firstly, is that all our debt services are paid for.
All right, questions? Mr. Parkers?
I have a suggestion. We have a spreadsheet that shows our goals for the year, our objectives. And Tom has gone down and indicated what was in the budget, which is good. He's got some dollars in there. And so what I suggest we do is go down this list. And for those that aren't,
Talking about that one?
pardon?
Talking about
No,
that?
actually,
What Heather handed out.
Which is the same one, it's just the one I filled out, to my understanding, so no guarantees of accuracy.
does that make sense, David? It should be the same list. He's just filled in stuff based on budget review. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, based on where
I
I
just
saw.
hadn't seen this.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody has, I was working on it up till I came here.
Well, it's actually in the agenda package. It's just in a list form instead of in a table form.
But
Well, it didn't have all the dollars and all
Yeah,
the
exactly.
checks.
that's
Yeah,
not the same.
Not at
yeah.
Yeah, the goal is just to cover, see that the objectives are covered in the budget or not, and what the dollars are and where the dollars are, so that we can see how well the budget meets our achieving our objectives, or enables us to achieve our objectives.
So I'll be happy to take line one, because
Okay.
that falls in the B part budget.
Yep,
I believe that 475 number that you have there in that column reflects the entire amount that's in the budget for the access and rec line. But for the ADA compliance project, if you go back to, if you guys remember this big spreadsheet you got in March that had details out to the
Yep.
side, and the May 2nd meeting packet with the details out to the side, it talks about the things that are included in that line. And if you take everything else and minus it from the 475, the amount you get for ADA is $334,000.
Okay.
300,
And
I'm sorry,
remember
say that
We
again.
also said in those meetings that we should not play our hand and tell the contractors what each one of those project amounts are.
So it's 334, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the question, and it's, I guess it's maybe terminology, we say ADA compliant, which I guess I think of as the arbitration agreement. I mean, there's 10 projects on the arbitration, got to do these. Now, there's stuff on here or stuff in here that is not one of those 10. Are they grouped in here?
Yeah, for that access and rec line, it includes other things that were detailed in these other budget project sheets. So it includes 6,000 for Coquina for parking lots, 120,000 for beach access repairs that we need to do at 3 locations. It includes the ADA compliance stuff, $10,000 for the park course, $5,000 for trash cans and picnic tables.
Yeah, I'm already over 490, 475 at this point, so the 334 and the 120 puts you at 454, and then 6,
And 10 and 5.
yeah.
So I'd like to make a recommendation. I understand that you don't want to play your hand, but a lot of these things are just like that. For instance, we just talked about, there's 200K in there for street resurfacing as a line item budget. So I feel like it's important for these things that are objectives to be a line item in the budget so that we can know that we have it in there and track how much we're spending against it. I'd like to see a lot more detail than that, like I'd like to see that 475 say 300 for ADA, 120 for 3 public walkways, 5K for parkours, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we have some line items in here that are $500, so it seems reasonable to break out hundreds of thousands of dollars for certain projects, especially the ones that are our key objectives and we want to track. How much did we spend on it, and did we budget enough, or, you know, where are we on each of these projects? That would be my recommendation for that 475, that we could, at a minimum, break out the ADA part of it. You don't even have to say both of those projects separately. Then there's no fear that someone's going to think that they can bid something about that.
So what I'm hearing is, I think I'm understanding what you're saying. The access and rec line, instead of the 334,000 being contained in that 475, you want it put in a line itself that's created that says ADA Keepers Project?
That's exactly right.
Because when we prioritized, these were must-dos. We legally bound, had to absolutely do them. So that's why their number one priority is it's a legal requirement. But we've got stuff in that 475 number that is not a legal requirement. So we were, for this objective, we just wanted to make sure that we're meeting our legal obligations and how much that was going to cost.
Okay, I understand what you're saying there, but as far as the access and rec line, that's just in the past where that's been housed, but there's also in the past historically been operations and maintenance stuff that we always accomplished from there. So it wasn't like things were being added in that weren't on the agreement. It's just historically, that's always where we've done coquina for parking lots. That's always where we've done our beach access repairs. So it wasn't adding to the agreement details, it was just, that's where that's always housed. But if you guys want it broken out, they can look at breaking that out.
I'd like to see
Yeah.
that and make that recommendation,
Yeah.
especially for these things that are our priorities. Do we have to get a consensus on that, or how would we do that?
I mean, what is it gonna solve?
We know how much we're spending to do our must-dos. If things
think
get,
she
if we
gave
gotta
us
find,
the
if we gotta cut, if
must-do.
we gotta, well, to me, a must-do is an untouchable, I mean, we have to do it. We're legally bound to do it.
Correct.
We can't cut that budget.
We also have to do the other maintenance that we're talking about to maintain, never mind. I promised I wasn't gonna do this, whatever.
Well, the definition of must-do, at least the one, my understanding of it was legally required. Had to do it, or we were in legal trouble. Should do is all maintenance and everything. We should do maintenance. We shouldn't let our things wear out, but, I mean, that was. how I
Weren't they all
felt.
line items in the budget that we went over?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we have line items for each of those in the original?
If
Department draft.
you look at the latest packet I have, here's the May 2nd packet, out to the side in the details section of the budget, it lists each of those items and the cost. It just doesn't say, in the middle segment, it says 801 OVW and Avenue E projects plus bathroom Avenue E, and it doesn't give that 334,000 aggregate number because we don't want to itemize that out for contractors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense to
It
me.
was there.
Because I just said exactly what, you know, we have no problem putting 200K for street resurfacing, and we have two things in there, so they're not gonna know whether this is for Avenue E or 801 OBW. I just think it's important for the things on this list that we track them separately. And just as far as, you know, talking about workshop, I heard Paige saying something about, well, we went through the workshops, but this is it's, in my mind, this is our first opportunity to give feedback on all the things that we've seen. So this is our first opportunity to say what we think about what was in the proposal, because this is the first time we're seeing a balanced budget. So we're going to request some changes.
Okay. So the second one is.
Wait, is that a problem, David? Can you do that?
We can add a line for ADA compliance,
Thank you.
$334,000.
Perfect, thank you.
And then the other ones are just access? Or what are the other ones that are in?
The other ones is basically a maintenance line
Maintenance?
for
Okay.
public access
Okay.
and recreation. That's upkeep.
And that, there is a line for that already in the budget?
It's access and recreation, yes, sir.
It's the 475 that you originally
Oh,
put
that's the
on.
whole
It's
thing.
on
So we didn't
page-
carve it, got it, got it,
And
got it.
ju- and just remember that once those ADA things get built, they're a one-time use. They'll be thrown away, and the maintenance money to take care of them will fall back into public.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Are you just gonna go through the list?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll go through it.
And just, we want you to verify that what he has on the list is what you think is in there for each of these items, David.
Well, I mean, y'all, this is the first time I've seen your
I know,
numbers.
but I think you
So
probably,
We'll do it on the
Yeah.
fly and try to do
and
it.
we
No.
can tell you what page it's on and all sorts of stuff, of what we think, but because we haven't, this is the first time we're seeing the commissioners, this is the first time we're seeing the balanced budget. So we haven't had an opportunity to find all these things
But-
in the budget until just now.
David doesn't need to confirm that right tonight, though, does he? I mean, I
Well, we're
kind of
running
see
out of
where
time.
it's,
Well, we're just, yeah.
well,
I mean,
could you take a look at it, and Tom, if you send him that file, he could correct it, and then he could just send it out to us?
Well,
no,
well,
because
but-
we have questions. I want to go through this list. It's
Well,
only,
we will go through it.
okay, that's all
I'm
I'm
just saying,
asking.
let's not upcheck the numbers right now. David, that's not really fair to David to figure all that out.
I think it'll be okay. I think David's going to know all these numbers right off the top of his head.
Okay.
I appreciate your confidence in me.
I do. I honestly do. I mean, look at number two.
Hey,
ADA
with that type of
self-assessment.
support, let's give her a go. Strap it on. Let's go. Number two,
That's
ADA
right.
self-assessment. It's in the professional services governing body, $50,000.
50,000, right.
Easy.
Well, okay, so I have a question for that.
Swag
Again,
it.
take,
Got no idea how much it's gonna cost.
I have
I
no
know.
problem with that, but I'd like to see it as a separate line item, just like the ADA compliance. The things on this list, I'd like to have as separate line items. You can call it professional services, ADA assessment, because I think it's important for us to be tracking these. These are our goals. This is our number 3 goal. I want to know how much we spent on it and if we've completed it.
Well, the ADA self-assessment, that will come to the board
Okay,
to decide who you guys want to do that.
but I'd still like to be able to be tracking it.
Separate line, same thing as the other one.
Correct.
Okay, number 3, I think that's straightforward. That's the goal, the Greensboro Station 2, that number is based on previous estimate. Got it.
Took the two grants, added
I
them
think-
together, carried forward the professional services that we believe we have, and I think there was another little piece there, but that's what the expense is.
Okay, so this is my question. How much is actually there for construction? Because T.A. Loving's,
It's one of the requirements, and before you're gonna be able to go to construction, you're gonna have to pull this money out and set it in a capital ordinance, a capital
Right.
project ordinance. And the actual amount left in professional services, it has been brought over. The residual that's on Leo's contract to do the contract management.
Engineering, construction management.
Because designs are done.
right.
Okay, so the piece that's left in there, that was brought forward. I want to say it was a $60,000 fund balance appropriation.
It was,
Water
I
sewer.
saw
And
that.
that represents the professional services needed.
What I'm trying to figure out
But
is,
when it's bid, those numbers are going to have to be extracted and set in a capital project ordinance. It's just set in a different pile within the budget, but what we don't know is what the distance is between the bid and what we've got with grant funds. We're looking, because we have assumed that that'll be the bogey that we're gonna have to take down on financing, or that's your pay-go amount or whatever.
Right.
And we have, information today that we may be able to pay-go it.
What does that mean?
Pay-go, you got
Pay-as-you-go.
cash.
Okay.
Let's say you got 4.8 in grant.
Yeah.
And the price comes in at 5.8. Depending on what that is, we think that you may not have to borrow it.
Okay.
Okay.
But, I'm not ready to hang that out there
Yeah.
yet.
I'm sorry, but previously, we just had a discussion how we didn't want to put the budget number out there because then they'd come in at that budget. So we put this budget number out there. Or does that only work when we're putting too high of a number?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I only put the grant money that I knew that we had
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
And let it be a function of the bidding process. I just go ahead and give you all a heads up. I'm assuming that we're gonna have to get bid packages here over the summer for a late summer, early fall, kind of scenario. So we're gonna adopt this budget and then hopefully if the state comes back with an approval on our plans, we can go out and bid. But it's
That'll be
gonna,
for construction.
it's gonna start getting busy quick once that review is back
Right.
to us.
So I have a question on page 19. You say, we got all these grants, and then you say, page 19. Recommend to fund the Greenboro Street sewer system from the grants, blah, blah, and an amount to be determined subject to results of formal bidding process.
That's what I was
Yeah,
trying to
I
say.
think that's what you're alluding to.
Yes,
but
ma'am. 'Cause I don't
shouldn't we
know-
have something in there for that? What's your plan? I mean, you're just gonna borrow the money, you're gonna take it from savings when we finally get the bid? What's the plan? Shouldn't something be in there?
Y'all are gonna have to make that determination at that time when the bids come in.
Okay, so you wouldn't normally put something in the budget, a contingency for that, like a 10% or 5%, or you wouldn't do that? Okay.
But we may get lucky and do pay-go, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, where does pay-go come from if it's not in the budget?
Those are from sewer capital reserves.
Okay,
Fund balance.
so savings,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Which is
I'm
what capital
sorry,
reserves is
I
for.
want to clarify that it's not from the capital reserve funds that you have set up. It is from fund balance, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, so we're good on number 3.
Yep.
Uh,
So, go ahead. Why don't you just,
You just want me to go through
Describe
it?
it,
Okay,
yep.
all right. Fund Beach and Inlet Special, the Inlet Reserve Fund, and that was funded. There's 2 separate transfers. One is there's a $94,500 transfer from the B Part Fund.
Can you explain that? Like,
It's $27,000, which is basically the refund from Brunswick County. Whenever we got the special obligation bond, the condition of that was that basically Brunswick County had to underwrite, they had to underwrite our loan. And what happens is as the principal decreases each year, Brunswick County refunds us the difference in that. So this year it's $27,000 is what we're budgeting.
so would I see that somewhere in here, the
It's-
27,000?
I think it's in the fund balance policy. Yeah, this is the one.
Brunswick County
That's
refund
up to.
CRP, it's the 3rd line item down on 25, page 25.
Page 25. No, I want to see the actual numbers, Tom, not the policy. 27,000, okay, so I had that one.
Okay?
I'm
And
still,
then
yep,
the difference between the 94 and the 27 is that 2% of the occupancy tax is designated solely for beach nourishment. And when you take 5% of the 2%, you get the 60 to 70,000, and the 27,000 added together is the 94,500 to transfer over.
say that again, 2%,
It's 5% because the policy says to evaluate 5% of the 2% that's designated by statute for beach nourishment. So that was the math on that.
That's not how I read it, but okay. That's B that you're talking about, right? 5% of the occupancy tax collected?
Mm-hmm. Because
So-
remember, 3 is used for tourism purposes, the county gets a penny, 3 is used for tourism purposes, 2 is used for beach nourishment.
So I read that to read 5% of the occupancy tax collected, which is 4 million. So 5% of 4 million is 200,000.
I wrote that policy, and that was never what it was read
Well,
for.
that's the way it reads.
That was never its intention to take 5%, because to begin with, 5% of 4 million, you're including a penny that belongs to the county, so you can't do that. You gotta give a penny of that 4 million to the
Yeah, I
county.
understand that.
So you can't take 5% of something that you don't own. And it was never intended to be 5% of the whole of the 5 pennies that remain.
It's 5%, it's,
It's
say that.
5% of the 2% that was designated by the statute for beach nourishment.
So where does the other 95% of the 2% go?
It's in the fund. It's available for appropriation
It's
within
in
the
B
fund.
part to
Okay.
use.
Never mind. Sorry about that.
I don't
Too
know
many
where the
funds, not enough
2%
brain
comes
cells.
from, but okay.
The occupancy
All right.
tax you're authorized 6 cents of accommodation tax.
Okay, I
A
understand.
penny goes to the county.
Yes,
2% is for beach nourishment.
Yes.
3 is for tourism-related purposes.
Okay.
okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
Hey, there's a part B to number 4 too.
That's the county's refund.
No. Besides the 94.5, you mentioned 2 places in the budget. The other one was page 12. You talk about the board's ability with the available
That
to
was,
appropriate.
there's also a transfer that I put, wait a minute.
Page 12, you say that there would be $75,211 estimated surplus to be transferred from the general, or the governing body to the Beach and Inlet Reserve.
So that's 5% of the 2%?
No.
No, it has
This
nothing
is
to
in
do
the
with
general
those
fund.
percentages.
A totally,
Different fund.
totally different fund, totally
Okay.
different fund.
Just go to page 12.
No,
read the
no,
last-
stop. If you go to page 13,
Okay.
okay? You have a surplus in the available for appropriation line of $312,000,
Yeah,
okay? That basically is a contingency fund. By law, you can only have a 5% contingency fund in a fund. So 5% is $236,000.
okay.
So what I did is in the available to appropriate line, I just included the 312, and on the expense side,
Somewhere there's going to be a 75
It's in the paragraph on 12.
to 11. I know, but I'm looking forward to the number in the budget.
the remaining $75,000 to make it be 5%,
Yeah,
that would be a transfer to the Beach and Inlet Fund. And I just realized, I didn't put it here.
it's not in
Well,
there.
it's
Okay.
not in here as a transfer because it's $312,000. You guys have to direct
Got
me
it.
to do that.
Okay.
But just remember,
Yep.
you can only have 5%, but you can only have 236 in that available to appropriate line.
Okay.
You have to transfer the other piece of it over to the Beach and Inlet Fund.
Perfect.
And bear with me just one second. I did not include that in the mechanical transfer already. The 75 over to the Beach and Inlet Management Fund, I just identified it so the board could do that. Should you be so inclined.
But the 94 is included.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Got it.
That's an actual line item.
Okay,
there.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stormwater study implementation plan, that is coming to y'all at the June meeting.
Okay.
But
If that's available before we get our packages, could you send that electronically to us? So
I
we
hadn't
can,
got an electronic copy of it,
Oh.
and the stormwater study, we haven't got a hard copy of it yet. We haven't got a copy of it yet. No, we haven't got a copy of it yet, yeah. That's why I don't have a digital copy. Yeah, the answer is yes to that, as
Thank
soon as
you.
we get it.
Thank you.
But it should be on the agenda, I'm
perfect.
promised that it'll be on the
But in
agenda.
terms of the budget, there's no dollars in there yet to be done
No,
with the
because
plans.
when
Yeah.
y'all, when y'all see that, it's gonna take some digestion.
And as,
Digestion or indigestion?
Well, no, it's gonna take some digestion, and remember, that plan and program is, it is tied to federal appropriations that we're trying to get for that. So it's not, there's no need for any funding in this year until you digest your way through it, I think.
And see what kind of funding we might get towards
ma'am.
doing some of it.
Right.
Perfect, thank you.
Christie, you want to talk to ADA bathroom that blocked you?
Sure. I'm gonna assume through quick math that I did that you took the 760,000 in the line for
I took-
block Q, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the
Yep,
spreadsheet.
yep. Added them
And the
together.
45,000 for professional services to get to 805?
Yes.
Okay. So those two numbers add together to get to the 805. What I would say is scratch out on this sheet for the future meetings is where it says 300,000 stormwater study, that's not a study. It's to actually implement the stormwater construction in the modular phase that y'all talked about. So it's not a study at all. The word study needs to go away out of that.
Well,
And it was 200,000 was the placeholder and then what's shown in the budget message because we've asked the consultant, Randy Baker, a couple of times and he had to get back with the engineer and he has not given a different number yet.
And it's, to quote him today, it is being re-engineered and they don't have it for us yet, as far as a price on it.
so my understanding was that it was, so we're doing this for just the bathroom.
It's
We-
a modular system.
And
that's
originally you
limited.
had 300 for the whole thing, implementation. Now we're doing just the bathroom. And you said we didn't need a new engineering study for the stormwater because it was so small that we were just going to need a permit. That's what I heard at one of
Well,
the.
you're gonna have a design, a permit's gonna require a design.
Right.
Well, yes, but that will be the whole building and the parking lot, right? The design will be the building, the parking lot, and whatever.
Stormwater
Stormwater you need.
requirements go with that.
And do we not think that the original quote would include that for just the bathroom?
No.
What I'm getting at is that
No,
I
it
think
didn't.
we don't need the $200,000 in there.
We did not include stormwater in the grant funding.
But it seems to me it's like a house. When I build a house, I don't have 200,000 extra for stormwater.
You don't have, paved parking at your house either. That's
Well, we're gonna have paid parking for the bathroom?
paved, excuse
Oh,
me,
paved.
paved parking.
Yeah, I think you have like 4 spots. I have that many in my
It's all
property.
paved, y'all. There's not gonna be a way to get around not having to have a stormwater permit for the bathroom up there. Just, there ain't no way to do it.
Right.
You're not gonna get the building permitted.
so if I understand you correctly, the architect's still working on the stormwater design and he doesn't have an actual dollar figure for us
That
yet?
is my understanding as of
Okay.
today.
Any idea when he'll have that?
Well, to quote him, he said that he was going to call him and beat on him. The architect calling the engineer and beat on him.
So you got any feel for that, like 2 weeks?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just going off of, the guidance from the board that said we had, some time over the next year to get this thing constructed. And
Right.
yes, the engineer is working on a stormwater plan for us. It's been, revised. Tim's been in contact with him. I've been in contact with the architect, and the architect's just having a hard time getting up with the engineer. So I don't know how, you know, what to tell you.
Okay, so I guess what it comes down to is that 200K or whatever for stormwater may be less once he gets
Yeah.
on, okay.
I-
That's ultimately where we're going, but we don't know how much less.
The engineer told me that it was him, he was lacking in getting back to our architect, but then he would get back to him. So-
Okay,
And he
all right.
told me, and I actually know who he is, and he's very, very busy. I mean, he does a lot of stormwater stuff, and we all know about Bill Norman right now.
Okay,
So, he's very busy.
well, keep us posted on how that goes.
Well, I'll tell you, we got,
I mean-
his indication to me, and it's 100% professional, because I called and asked him questions, was, do you want me to work directly for the town, or do you want me to work through the architect? And of course, we want him to work through the architect, so I'm not gonna be calling him no more.
Okay.
Because I got the impression he don't want me bothering him. So, he knows what he's doing, he's one of the best there is in the county. He actually did the other one that got approved and permitted, so, you know, he's busy.
All right.
We get it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, just to be clear, we're only talking about the parcels where the bathroom, we're not talking about the entirety of Block Q?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the
That's-
indication, that's what I indicated to him, that's what he indicated as understanding he was going to do, the engineer.
The only project that we have going on out there is a bathroom. And
for
whatever
760.
is required to permit the bathroom.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen a design on that bathroom, have we?
Oh, no, y'all are gonna get a chance
Yeah.
to select design. I'm not picking design. The other thing, I don't do colors either.
That's what the 45 is. For
Oh,
him
that's
to
what the
de-
45 is?
For him to design the bathroom.
Oh, I thought that was our other Block Q number 14, to see if we wanted to do anything with, oh, so it is really,
Is that-
805 is the correct number.
Well, he designs it to fit the 745 now, right, or 765?
No.
So 805 is really the correct total number for the bathroom?
Yes, it's just the stormwater study, 300,000 stormwater study needs to be removed from the sheet.
Well, it includes 200 for the stormwater implementation, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So do you see how that's wrong?
Yeah.
And what would correct it? So that's a $805,000 bathroom, just to be clear.
Minus 420.
It's a golden, don't say it.
What?
Yes, minus 420. Okay.
Anybody recall what the original stormwater study cost us?
I don't remember what it costs.
I know the implementation was 300,000 for the original. We're not having a new study done, we're just revising the old one, and the implementation is what's gonna be 200,000, but it shouldn't be anywhere near that. That's ridiculous for a tiny bathroom,
Not a problem.
parking lot.
Okay.
Number 7,
Plans for a new fire station. There are no budgeted funds in here for a new fire station because there needs to be some coordination between the building inspector and the fire department to see what exactly could go over there,
agreed.
you know? And once that's skeletonized, then, you know, framed up, then the board would be in a position at that time to appropriate funds for an architect to do the building, if you will. But right now, we're unsure of what the requirement over there is.
Understand. Any idea when you're going to have time to get with Chief Todd and figure that out? I know you're busy.
I talked to David Ward and talked to Chief Todd, and we've already had some discussions about this. And that assessment needs to be done. You don't want to send it to an architect and not know what you need.
Agreed,
That's the most
100%.
important thing. We do know that we need to reconfigure. We think the site is going to be good. We do need to reconfigure the way it's located. That'll work out better for everybody on the side street when we're located. We're going to gain more room. What happens is you look at what's there and you go, oh God, what, we can't do nothing, not realizing that that building was built with restraints that we don't have now. And I think, don't hold me to it, but we're going to be able to accommodate their needs. But we need to know what they are in their entirety so that I can look at it in the form of the location, and then we can send it out. We don't want to make a commitment and then find out we need another site.
I understand.
So you're talking about the current site?
The current site,
You-
absolutely.
You're optimistic
Current
that
site-
it'll be able to be on the current
We
site?
believe is perfectly located, it's
Okay.
closest to the central.
Yep.
Good.
It just needs to be reconfigured. We're basically talking about turning it, facing it on Ocean Boulevard, moving it a little closer to Ocean Boulevard. And then that gives us some more room and width and depth. And of course, when they build it, I guess they build it just for what they felt like they could in there. But we've got the capability to, based on our new rules and regulations that we implemented in 2013, to, I think, give them what they want. But we do need, you don't want to do that. You don't want to send it out to an architect. I've done this 3, maybe 4 times.
Yeah.
It's me, it's the fire department, it's maybe an outside consultant, once we figure out what the needs are, and we believe we have one here in the community that's done it before. for the county.
Good.
So we've had quite a bit of conversation, we're just at that point, and I hope to make it happen soon, is where we're at. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Number 8,
Number 8.
audio video improvements. We put 50,000 in the board's budget for that.
Yes, so that's on page 12. Again, my request is to take that out of the 57,000 you have on communications on page 12.
I think that's a services, right?
No, that was the other one for the ADA assessment. I think this is in communications, but I could be wrong. I think I had notes from previous that it was in the communications.
It's in the,
It's 57,644, right?
I think it's in there, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Wherever it is, I want it taken out so I can see it when it, really, and everyone will know where it is, because it'll say on it. Meeting video improvements or whatever.
I put it in the communications where it is double
Yes, that's what you say on page 12.
Page 12, the fourth item down, the 57 under communications.
Increase of 50,000 for new meeting camera system.
It's in
Right
there.
Yep.
Right,
Okay, so you just want it broken out.
yes, please.
Administration.
Okay.
No, is that the right one? Or is it
I
like-
can't remember.
It's the fourth line item that says communications, the
Okay, so you want
57,644. I want a separate item that says 50, and then obviously you'll have a
Communications
7.
on page 13 too. 51,000. Under administrative?
The communications, that's under admin is separate, it's under the governing body.
Okay.
It should be from 12, page 12.
Thanks, David.
So break out the meeting system accoutrements.
Whatever you want to call it, yeah. So we can identify it and track it.
All right.
Yeah, communications
What-
is one that's kind of hard to follow because it's in a lot of different places. Is it the same in all those places, or is it?
With the exception of the police department, which has radios in there, generally speaking, comm is telephones and computers.
Okay.
Water system assessment plans, that's the water system asset inventory that is incoming as we speak, so it'll already be done. But that'll take some digesting too,
Just like the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we're gonna get that in June too?
if not June, July. I believe that we're on a glide slope for Leo's group to come talk to y'all in July.
Okay, sure, that's fine. No urgency.
Okay, 790,
That's
seven,
incoming water,
I'm sorry.
incoming water.
Yeah, that was the asset inventory that Leo's group has done for us. It inventories all of our water and sewer assets, so we know exactly what we got.
And,
Have GIS stuff on there and also look at the study about the power and stuff.
yeah, capacity, right? Answered my question, thanks.
Like more going out than coming in. In other words, there's more going out at times than it's coming in.
Sounds like my checkbook.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
796 is for sale.
Yes.
So
When are the bids?
whenever
Tomorrow?
it sells,
Tomorrow?
whenever it, is it tomorrow?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Whenever it sells, y'all can figure out what to do with the money, I guess.
Do you have anything in there if it doesn't sell for any length of time? I mean, I'm seeing houses on the market for 6 months plus now. So should we have something in here to pay the debt? And if,
Well, your debt service is in the budget. The debt service is in the budget.
I thought Daniel said he took out
No,
796
you
at some
can't-
point.
No, he,
No, just,
whoa. The first thing you have to do whenever you have a budget is you have to pay your debt, okay? All right,
Yeah,
so you got a debt on 796.
good.
And it's in the budget.
Okay.
It has to be there.
Good.
The revenue is what you're talking about. There is no revenue from the sale of 796.
No,
That's
of
fine.
course not.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it was still in there. And we haven't gotten any bites on it at all, huh?
Bites?
Yeah, I didn't, we got one this afternoon, one sealed bid, but I didn't tell you that yet. So we do have one.
So will that be shared with us?
It has to be shared with you, and y'all have to figure out what you want to do with it.
Right.
But
So it'll be open tomorrow, and then it'll be at the our
Well,
meeting? or
why,
what-
well, why can't they share it with us on our next meeting on Friday?
Needs to be- when-
They'll share it with us as soon as you're able, right?
when does the agenda package
No, I'm talking about,
go out? The regular meeting?
Next week.
Okay.
That'll be next week.
Okay.
But yes, we only have, and we haven't talked about it yet, because it literally came into my desk at the very end of the day today, so he doesn't
Okay.
even know that I had one until right now. But it's not till tomorrow, they're due tomorrow, which would normally be tomorrow.
oh, you might get another one. No.
Possible, yeah.
All right, that's good news. Well, depending on what it is, I guess, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, depending on what it is, then that'll determine an action. Include beach nourishment in the CIP. Well, the CIP that we prepared does not have beach nourishment in the CIP. We had done a separate exercise previously for that, but in our current beach management plan, we don't have any trip wires or glide slope that says we're going to do a beach nourishment project on this date. So we didn't include that in the CIP because I don't know how to do a CIP that has an undefined cost at the end of it.
You
Well, you
shared
did
one
it-
in a workshop, if I remember.
You
Was
did
that
it
just a-
already.
Yeah, you put it out there
It was
15
a
years or
15
something.
years, but
Yep.
it was outside the 10-year window of a normal CIP. So that was a hybrid beach management fund, CSRM, some type of hybrid sketch that we put together. And I just don't think that you're ready to put something into CIP that, on beach nourishment with such a long lead time.
So how do we capture, I hear what you're saying, but how do we just kind of maintain the visibility, what Christie developed, just to, so it's out there somewhere and someone's aware of that work?
Christie didn't do it.
All three of us,
Yeah.
Daniel, David, and myself, just want to make sure everybody gets credit there.
Or blame. Yeah, I understand, I'm an engineer, we always work in groups, so nobody gets singled out. That's really the goal, so we don't lose,
Well, I mean, you got.
lose that piece of work, so where could it be,
You got
how
a
would we
beach inlet-
capture it?
You got a beach inlet capital reserve fund with $2 million at the end of the year. I mean, I think that's, if you're wanting visibility on beach projects, that would be where it would be directed to.
Yeah, I mean, the one you shared, the 15-year, I thought was very informative, because we put a big number out there, and we said if we save at this rate, we're gonna have to borrow X. It just seems we ought to have visibility to that we shouldn't just,
Shelve it.
I don't
You're going
have,
blind.
I don't have the confidence in that exercise to include it and put it under the manager's signature inclusion in a CIP. And the manager's recommendation is what goes into CIP. So, I mean, the CIP isn't even part of the budget technically.
right, it's planning these big-ticket, long-term items.
Right, and it's also pretty close to wish listing. I know Chris and I go through wish listing a lot, and what we have found is that we're not willing to hypothesize a 15-year CIP for beach nourishment. It's just, it's too wide of a variation on it. Your funding streams are not lashed down, and you don't know what your tripwire is.
I hear you, I understand for this budget, we need to move on, but I do think we need to plan for beach nourishment in the future, so we're not caught in situations some other towns get caught in, so not
Well,
for today.
and, you know, planning for beach nourishment is part and parcel of the things that you can do is you can go get permits.
Yep.
And we're planning for those.
Yeah.
And
I
we're
think-
planning for 2 different types of permits, and we're planning for 2 strategies related to funding for the beach nourishment. One is, you know, the traditional town funded, and also the federally partner, and that's going to play
Yeah.
out over the next couple of years.
Okay.
Okay.
Revised fund balance policy for beach nourishment, that's not a budget-related
Yep.
thing.
Right.
Yep,
You know,
That's on the board.
That's a board
understood.
thing.
Yep.
Pavilion, well, it's up at the Brunswick County landfill right now.
It is?
It's gone.
Oh,
I
really?
gotta go over there
Can I-
afterwards.
Did they take the cement? I drove by there a day or two.
No.
They
So
want-
they
It's just
had
covered in
over
dirt.
it?
And
Okay.
covered in sand to protect them.
Okay,
okay.
I was like, whoa, they took it.
So can I ask real quick, Christy, what was your assessment of the concerts at the park across the street? Do you envision that, I guess the question is really, could that be a long-term solution, or do we need to
That ain't
get
long-term
serious
solution.
about a new pavilion?
I don't think it's a long-term solution. I think that everybody is, for the most part, is pretty much embracing it. There's been some very positive feedback. The number one negative is not having a dance floor, because currently the dance floor we're having to use is the end of Davis Street, which means the dancers are behind the band. And people have an idea of the previous site and wanting the dance floor to be so that you can see the dance floor and the dancers and the band where you sit.
If that's the biggest complaint, then we're doing pretty good.
Well, we had some fire ants yesterday, but we took care of them.
Some what?
Fire ants.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, it looked like it was extremely well attended. You know, obviously that Memorial Day is going to be a big crowd.
Both Memorial Day and the
July
last night
4th. Oh, last night too.
was a big crowd.
Wow.
Obviously Memorial Day, the crowd was already here and filtered in last night. They kind of filtered in right as it got time for the concert, if that
Okay.
makes sense. But the space filled in.
No issues
Well-
with bathrooms or parking, or, I mean, Jeremy was, I saw, well represented with his people.
I won't say there's not an issue with the bathroom. Obviously, anybody that's going to the bathroom does not prefer going to a porta-john. but people are embracing the fact that that's the only option they have because the load on those bathrooms of being one stall won't take. Like, people go, can I really not go to that bathroom? So I do hear that, but.
Oh, you had those bathrooms locked?
Absolutely.
I
They would
heard
be
that,
broken for
actually.
the entire summer if we didn't do that because
Okay.
it's one stall in each and it would be a nightmare.
Okay.
So they get locked every Sunday at 3 o'clock when I turn the lock and then they get opened back up.
Okay. Thank you.
Lock key? Y'all good with the pavilion?
Yep.
Lock key?
Yep.
Block Q, well, the only money that's in the budget is for the bathroom. Sorry.
The only money that's in the budget's for the bathroom and the stormwater
Yeah.
associated with it.
We're good with that one. Just
Yep.
keep moving, I would say.
Lobbyist cost benefit analysis, that's the, we didn't do a cost benefit analysis.
Right.
That's the expense. I mean, you guys have to decide whether or not you want to continue that. I think that, you know,
So that's,
we're,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're right in the middle of
Contract.
3 federal programs that seem a bit,
That's another one that I'd like to see
Certain
broken
to-
out.
it would seem a bit.
I have no idea how much that's costing us. I know where it is.
It's,
It's in professional services.
and then, out to the side, so what she would need broken out, David, is the 140,700. And of that, 93.8 comes from B Part, 46.9 canal dredging.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Lockwood Folly Inlet access, I believe that there is $83,000 in there for a one-time Lockwood Folly sidecaster operation. We did include sand on the beach this year because this will be Oak Island's
Perfect.
time.
Thank you.
Inlet hazard area changes, that's not a budget
Nope.
item.
Yep.
Improved website and communication. Other than the meeting room stuff, we haven't made any website money for websites. Pier structure, pier building, the only money that was included there is for the professional services to do the evaluation on pier structure, pier building.
Right.
When do you think you're going to have that request for proposal for us to review? So it's not going out, it's just for us to review?
Well, I'm supposed to meet with Tim, Mr. Parfus, and myself next Monday to figure out what the path forward is
Okay.
and to sketch out what a timeline is.
Okay.
So if
Perfect. Nope, that's
let us
perfect.
let us have a skull session, and then that'll be something to bring back to you. Repair park course, Christie alluded to that. That's basically buying some 4x4s. I think she said there was 10,000 in there for repairing the park course.
Okay, so that's going to probably happen this year? That's going to happen, because I know that was put aside and nothing was happening on that.
In the upcoming budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was that included with number 24 here, the Parks and Rec facilities repair, or is that a separate?
It's in that access and
It's in that
recreation line, that's
475K that you have.
Oh, up there,
Yeah,
okay.
it's in that,
Okay.
because that's repair.
Yeah, and 24 Parks and Rec facilities repair?
We didn't get to 24 yet.
Oh, okay, we'll get that clear.
Repair park course, good.
Because you're going to skip the next.
Additional pickleball courts. Yeah, we hadn't put any additional pickleball courts in there. There's nothing, there's no plan that
Right.
sets anything forward.
That's just to see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the Parks and Rec facilities repair and improvement. Christie, you want to go through that again, or are y'all satisfied with it?
So
I'm good.
that's,
Is that number right? I don't know where that number came from.
I don't know where that number
That
came from.
came from him.
So I would have to
What
hold
in there
on.
number,
somewhere.
what number are you talking about?
He's got
50,000.
50,600. I don't know where that came from. He's got, on the chart.
Yeah, I found it somewhere.
I couldn't tell.
I think you just
Part
got
of the
plussed up.
475, right?
No.
No, okay.
I got no idea what that is.
So I'm gonna only wager a guess here.
Okay,
And so we're not gonna hold me to it. I don't know where your 5,600 came from, but I'm gonna wager a guess that possibly you pulled it from the Parks and Rec master plan.
no, I didn't.
No,
I
okay.
pulled it somewhere from some number I liked here it is.
So y'all
Rothschild
haven't,
Davis Park, that's where,
Pa-
Rothschild
page
Da-
number.
Page number 28.
okay, then that number's not right.
What is
So-
Rothschild's Davis Park? That's-
So let's talk about line items versus your budget goals. Because Parks and Rec facilities and improvements is not a line item that's listed in our budget. Okay, so Rothschild and Davis Park, if you go back to the previous packets,
Where's that, Tom?
Page 28, about halfway down the middle.
Called Rothschild
28.
Davis
It's
Park.
got the different font to it.
okay, so if we go back to previous packets, the detail out to the side for Rothschild Davis Park is,
I had something like water splash, something,
it's a
bathroom
splash pad, it's
cleaning.
fence repair, but this year that cost
Fence.
also went up because our fence always inevitably gets damaged. But the cost went up significantly in that line because there's also the Porta-John rentals for each month for the concerts because we're having
Yeah.
them now. There's bathroom cleaning for over there for the weekends year-round with paid parking. And there's the splash pad use, and give me just one more second here to find that on my actual, oh, pickleball nets and swing seats. So it is some of what you're saying. So repair to Parks and Rec facilities, the swing seats need to be replaced and we need new chains. And so there's money in there for that. But also, I would say there's other Parks and Rec facilities throughout the budget and line items that are also being repaired. For example, Halsted Park, we're gonna do new handrails because Tim has identified that we need to do some additional ADA stuff up there with handrails. So there was a number in the Halsted Park line that would make this total much larger. if
I
that
had a
makes
question
sense.
about that because I'm seeing that we're doing an ADA assessment. Shouldn't we, except for the things that are legally required, shouldn't we be waiting to see what the assessment shows that we need to do? And instead
Audit
of,
first.
I would hope that if we see things that are not up to snuff, that
Yeah.
it didn't take an outside entity to tell us that it won't right. And that's what Tim's function as the
Okay.
ADA coordinator is and the
Fair
building
enough.
inspector.
Fair
He's
enough.
gone out there and he's identified a couple of places that we need to remedy before somebody tells us we got to remedy.
okay, fair enough.
And then additionally, I mean, I'm just going with things off the top of my head to help you correspond with your goals and objectives. Our access ways are all Parks and Rec facilities. So we're spending on the access and recreation line $120,000 on repairs and improvements, which would fit your budget
That's in the
objective.
475,
Yeah,
just so
but
you know.
Just to clarify, 24, because I abbreviated it, the full objective is assess existing Parks and Rec facilities, playground equipment for maintenance, repair, or replacements. That's.
And that's
And all of those.
That's an
number
annual
24.
exercise.
So-
That's an annual exercise. that
So
we
it sounds
do.
like it's in the budget,
Yep.
it's all over the place in the
Yeah.
budget and different things.
Done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That one,
Done.
I don't think we can nail down as
Yeah.
a separate thing because it's
Okay.
all
All
over
right,
and
but
it's all
it's in
different
there.
facilities.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just had someone tell me something about the park and everything's rusty and it's dangerous for the children to get caught. And so I don't know if it was the swings but it sounds like you're on it. So good.
Changes to paid parking,
I think that's done.
That's done.
and then the sewer vacuum bypass system.
Huh?
It's not in the budget.
No,
Right.
Actually, took it off the list.
this one.
Well, I
wasn't
know
even
you
on.
wanted to look into it, and I was totally disappointed. It ended up the bottom of our objectives, but it is what it is. Yeah, it was a huge number.
Okay. Thank you for going through that. This is what I wanted to do. just
Okay.
So, you know, we're in a position to achieve our objectives.
I got a question for the board. I mean, we can take and break this stuff out. One programming difference, and y'all may or may not be inclined to provide guidance tonight, specifically relating to the, on page 12 of the budget message where I talk about, in the, say, the last 4 lines of the governing body paragraph, where I say, general fund has a surplus totaling 312, and it's recommended that of that amount to retain 236 in the governing body and to transfer the 75 over to the beach inlet and reserve fund. If that's something that y'all are so inclined to entertain, I can go ahead and do that, you know, for the next set of work.
I don't think so.
Let's wait.
Okay, we'll just leave it there. All right.
I have one more thing that was on my, and I'm on page, page 15. Yeah? Well, it's kind of page 14 and 15. Sorry, Jeremy. But I'm going to make the recommendation that we remove the detective and any related expenses, which is a new vehicle and all sorts of other stuff of, you know, 401K and FICA and group insurance and retirement. And I just don't feel like the amount of crime that we're seeing on this island and the type of crime can justify the expense for the island at this point. So,
What I'd like to do is defer that for reconsideration at mid-year. I would like to have one, but I just can't. You haven't sold me that we have that full-time workload, so I would like to understand that more. I don't want to take it off the table yet. I just need to put a pause on it and work with you to get a better feel for that.
Okay, can you define that for me specifically for administrative detail do you want it to go in the budget for 1 July, or you want me to take it out and y'all will bring it back in June?
Bring it,
take it out.
bring it back
Take
at
it out.
mid-year, reconsider. I just need to understand that better. I'd like to get to yes, but I'm just not there yet.
Isn't this the 5th year you've asked for one?
Yes.
And the crime and that needs that is increasing.
Steady. Can't say increasing, but it's.
I went through the report. I mean, I just didn't see the level of crime for detective. Maybe, you know, I mean, a lot of the big ones are off the island.
And I say this respectfully, you may not see the need for it because you're not the victim of it.
Right.
I can guarantee you, the people who are reporting it do see the need for it, so. And I say this seriously, not facetiously, I hope that you don't become the victim of it, because then.
I understand. I think what would help is going forward on the crime reports, this doesn't have to be reported, but, you know, these are the ones that a detective would address, because a lot of breaking, entering, I mean,
It's
they
a
just.
good idea.
So that we
6
can
months.
make the case, because I'm kind of the same way. It's not a strong case to me. If we could say, you know, here's all the ones we didn't get to, but I went back through the reports and I was looking at them and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of small, I mean, we're very fortunate we didn't have any big things.
Correct.
And maybe I'm incorrect, but it's like, that's what a detective, I mean, they focus full-time and it just seems like they'd be taking on a lot of little ones and.
Well, would it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
May I have the floor?
you may.
I'm a victim. I had my door kicked in while I was at work. My guns were stolen and a bunch of other stuff stolen out of my house. I didn't make a whole big deal about it because I'm the mayor and I don't want Alan Holden having special attention because that just brings more bad stuff. But the argument that we don't need a detective, yeah, if you're not a victim, you don't need one. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on that the general public doesn't know about, and a lot of stuff that he can't talk about. A lot of stuff I can't talk about. But I guarantee you, if you had a few $1,000s or several $1,000s worth of stuff taken from your house during the day, and you come home and you find your door busted in and your personal stuff gone through, and a lot of personal stuff taken from your full-time home, some of your lifetime treasures gone, that you might have a little different attitude about it. It takes special training to be a detective. You can't take somebody that's just finished a course that says they're qualified to be a policeman and expect them to go out and do the same things that a detective does. And I just plead with this board to please give some kind of consideration for detectives on this island. We got to have something. I mean, look across America, look at the statistics of what's coming, what has happened in recent years. And this is no reflection on our department. It's just that our department looks to this board to provide them with the ability to do their job. And I just plead with this board to give the department strong consideration for a detective. I don't hold anything against our police department. We never got anything back. Never caught anybody, no nothing, and there's been more people than just me. But whenever you have it happen to you, you have a different look at it, a different outlook, different thought process. And it's not the first time that I've had my stuff stolen. Back in the days, the 70s and the 80s, the old pavilion down there, people kick in the doors and the windows and go in and steal stuff. It's nothing new, but it's a new day and time, and I just beg this board to give the police department a detective. I mean, I think you need it. Everybody's happy when there's no crime, but when there is crime, in my opinion, you're supposed to take actions to reduce it. So that's enough said. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that also, when we do get the police report, he's got the ones that are in process, in process, in process. In other words, that means that he doesn't have a detective that will have other duties other than just being a detective. He will have other duties in the department, I feel sure, to help take the load off some of the other people that are working the overtimes and stuff. I've had a chance to talk to some of our officers, and they are the ones that feel like their hands are tied to the point where, you know, what are we doing this for? Nothing ever happens. And we want this board of commissioners at Holden Beach to put out the message that if you get over here and you steal something and you make it across that bridge, you're scot-free. Well, that's not the way it needs to be. We need to be able to have somebody on our force to go get our stuff back. I've had stuff stolen from my house before too. And you know where it is now? It's still stolen. No detective. But like you say, it's no need to put out a big, you know, deal in the paper or anything about the theft on Holden Beach. We don't need that kind of publicity, number one. And number two, they do a good job with what they've got to do with. But this is something on the budget that we do not need to have taken off the budget. I'm sorry, I'm gonna absolutely disagree with that particular line. I'll take something else off the budget. You know, that seems to be what the premise is here on going through this thing 100 times, but that is something that I'm adamant about, needs to stay in there. We've got a vehicle sitting over there at the emergency center that a detective can use, black pickup truck that is not gonna cost us. They actually drive it every now and then to make sure it stays in good running condition. So I don't see, we don't need to put out a message, no, we don't need a detective. Come on over and steal it, we can't catch you. I'm sorry, that's not the way we want to go. Not the way I want to go, period.
Paige,
I-
want to say
I-
something? Look, Paige.
Yeah.
I agree. This is something he's asked for over 5 years now. Some of the other things that he's asked for, the Merchants Association, like cameras and bulletproof vests and things like that, I think a detective is an essential employee that we need on the island. Crime is increasing. Cyber crime is increasing. I've gotten 5 emails this week from Alan Holden needing gift cards. So that's just going to get worse, and people fall to that scam. Older individuals fall to that scam, and I just think it's a necessity.
Let me just clarify. I agree with your points. I've been a victim too. It's not a matter of, well, I guess it just boils down to, is there enough to justify a new full-time resource? Because yes, there's one, I mean, if it's 2 crimes a year, and that's, I just need evidence. I'm not convinced by what I'm looking at. It's not that it's not out there, I just haven't seen it. And I think that would help me be a lot more comfortable. So it's not, you know, if there's only 1 or 2 events, it doesn't justify a full-time person for a whole year for 1 or 2 events. So there's a level at which they're justified. And I also would like to explore, I mean, it's been 4 years, how long have we gone without one? Have we relied on Brunswick County? You know, is there some other option that we can use while we're evaluating this? I'd really like to explore.
The one murder on the island was solved by a detective. I don't think we need to wait for a second murder to prove that we need a detective.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion because I don't think we're going to resolve this with consensus, so I'm going to make a motion.
Can I have I didn't make copies of this. I thought I provided this in one of the last meetings, but this is just for the last 2 years. This is 22 and 23. These are all the B&Es, larcenies, month by month.
Let me,
And I'm just, if you're looking for numbers and proof, and I don't have them counted out here, I can make more copies of this if you want to see them.
let me ask you
I'd like
this.
to study this.
Yeah, can we table this and you put together or refresh this just for more cohesive argument?
So if
And
you
wait
could
a minute, I'm
give
not
this to
done.
Heather.
Rick, I understand you have a vehicle for the detective, because I see there's a vehicle in the budget for the detective.
I think that's more of a typo. The vehicle we talked about, so we're getting rid of 3 2014 Rams, the old Dodge Rams that are on patrol, we're replacing 2 of those. So we're doing a 2 for 3 replacement.
So you were not, with the detective, you were not getting a
It was
vehicle?
still putting them in
Okay.
the unmarked,
Yeah.
correct. The
'Cause-
2 vehicles still need to be replaced. We've still got 3 trucks that are, I don't remember the mileage,
Yeah.
because I didn't bring it with me. but
That's fine.
100,000 mile range.
So here's kind of the thing, which is surprising to me. The board's 5 people and 3 of them have been robbed. So I would ask you to just, instead of trying to do this on the fly and flip something at me, just,
So is this 22 or is this 23?
That's 22. We haven't got to 23
Okay.
yet. There's-
yeah.
And I
Yep. All right.
swear, I thought I gave that to y'all the previous meeting, maybe I didn't, maybe I just used it.
It's probably in the other
It was in the
3,000 sheets
workshop.
of paper I've gotten in these meetings.
So you have 9 officers,
Correct, yes, ma'am.
including you and Frank and,
Correct,
yeah. And so you're asking for 2 vehicles to be replaced.
correct.
Yeah, okay, so this doesn't add up to what Jeremy's saying. So my understanding was it was for an additional person, because I knew we'd have 10 people. But the thing that Jeremy sent us with for the police, 1 vehicle was 5,800, I'm doing miles. 1 has 7,500, 1 has 62, 1 has 22, 1 has 32, 1 has 22, 1 has 16, 1 has 31. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles that have
Less than
30,
50,000.
that's less than 40,000 miles. And then you have one that has 72,000 miles, one that has 81, and one that has 114. So those aren't adding up to asking for 2 vehicles without an extra person needing a vehicle.
We have 10 positions. We should have 11 trucks with a spare, plus the detective vehicle.
Well, can't you use one of the ones that has 72 or 70,000 miles as a spare?
those, if we sell those, because they're being spares now, that's what, we're getting rid of 3 of those, and just looking to replace 2.
All right, we'll have to get more into this, I think, next time. Just look at your whole thing.
So for the purposes of revising this document, I'm not to mess with the police department at
Not
this
right
time?
now.
At this time, that's
Okay.
correct.
We'll revisit it on Friday.
Let me just ask a question while we're talking about vehicles. Maybe it'd help a lot. On page 15, it indicates there's a town vehicle replacement policy. Is that something that's actually written down, or is that, could I get a copy of that just to look at?
Sure. It's
Okay,
basically, it
thanks.
says
It just says 7 years,
770,
70,000 miles.
770 is what it says, but yeah.
Okay.
That's the end of the list.
Yeah.
I have a question.
So what, do we plan to have another meeting Saturday, Friday, and then another meeting next Wednesday?
Yes, we do.
I need
I
to
am not
review
gonna
what
be-
we've learned.
I'm not gonna be
today.
able to attend either. I've had an engagement that's been planned for over a year, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna miss it.
I have a
I don't really see, can you tell me what the need is for the next 2 meetings?
Well, a lot of stuff's been clarified for me.
David's gonna make an update.
Misunderstanding. David's gonna make an update. I just need to,
Can we not do that in one meeting?
I don't know if we can or not. I still have a lot of questions to go through, and we've been here for a while. I mean, we said we were only gonna do 2 hours, and I'm not sure that we can do it in one more meeting, but we've had these on the books for 6 months, and.
our back's against the wall. We gotta pass
And
the
we
budget.
canceled all the May meetings, and David needs to have time to make revisions, so I feel like we need to keep these on the books for sure. And we might even need to recess and have more meetings if we're not getting through it.
I have a question. The money that was set aside for Block Q for the paved boat parking, was that put back into the general fund?
Well, the money was appropriated in the B Part Fund, and so are you asking what happens to it when we get to the end of the fiscal year and it's not done? It reverts back to fund balance. You didn't use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something we could appropriate to use for a new pavilion?
Yes.
Okay.
You can use any of the revenues available to the board except those that are in the water and sewer fund.
And in the
If
agenda,
that's what the board wanted to do.
and so in the agenda, Daniel put together what those balances were as of that date. It will change before the end of the year, so it's not set in stone, right, Daniel? On page 3 of the agenda, it says the general water B part, and that's what the expected balances are in those funds. And the concerning thing for me is the beach and inlet that has only
Wait
2.
a minute. That's not what that chart says to me. That says that the revenue is as of 5/25.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Excess of revenue. That's not the fund balance. That's
Well-
a whole different thing. That's basically, those are cash balances, which is.
Right. That's just this year's budget that hasn't been spent yet, right? That, yeah, it was a different,
FY '23 number is the fund balance that was actually, that's the audited financials. That's the actual fund balance. There's a lot that goes into fund balance. The excess of revenue is part of it, but there's a lot more, so.
okay, what I'm trying to understand is excess of revenue is just like remaining unspent budget money for this year, right?
Well,
Oh.
it's money in is revenue, money out is expense. Excess of revenue is in excess of out. So it's how much the fund balance will go up.
So, but the fund balance was 5 million in the beginning of the year of '23, and then it may change by 700, and you're expecting it to be 6 million at the end of the year,
As of the end of May.
which may or may
No,
not be
That's not what
exactly
that
right.
says, y'all. That
Yeah.
Okay,
says,
well,
that
explain it.
says today, that's the excess, but it may get spent
Yeah, of
down
course, of
before the end
course,
of the year.
of course.
Yeah, that's not a fund balance
But
type of
We
thing.
got 1 month left though, right? Because it's 529, we got June expenses left,
Right.
and June revenue.
We got a pretty high cash burn rate on a daily basis,
Yeah.
so.
I was just going to ask a question. Are there big expenditures for general fund and B part that
Fiscal.
happen in June, like Central Reach? Do you pay that at the end of fiscal year, or just,
No big debt services. The biggest thing will be the interfunds transfer, which included is that fund transfer that, the 610,000, it hasn't actually taken place yet. but it'll
Right.
Take place at the end of the year, but that's included in the numbers there.
and I believe it was 793 that was, there's so many numbers floating around. 793 was going to go from general fund to B part. Did that, I believe in last year's budget, did that actually occur?
No,
That'd be
because-
in the
Okay,
year.
so that's one reason general fund is so big.
right, and it's also rolled into the fact that we didn't execute a build over there. So that'll have to be deconflicted.
Right. Okay. There's one thing, it's just us folks here, but I think it's one thing that David explained to me today. David, I'm going to ask you to just kind of revisit it, because we're going to take on some debt possibly for Pump Station 2. Yeah, we got this big balance sitting in the general fund. Would you just review for me again why we can't use general funds for
The fundamental premise is you can't obligate the tax base for enterprise functions, i.e., the enterprise function of water, sewer, or whatever you may have that are enterprise funds has to be self-supporting. So your question was, could we transfer money from the general fund over to the water and sewer fund?
Right.
And the answer is yes, but you're going to get a letter from the local government commission that says you're not supposed to do that, and oh, by the way, you have to pay it back.
Right, so it's a non-starter. No, yeah, there you go.
So, but if I look at these things, which I may or may not be reading right, we still have 4 million in the water sewer fund that we could use for that if we needed to, instead of taking out a loan.
That's what we're talking about in terms of what is, Daniel, what was the term? I forget. The
Restricted.
restricted, non-restricted.
So we could use that?
That's what we're believing. We just need to but remember, yeah.
So that could be a possibility. That's where we'll leave it.
That's what we're talking about with the delta satisfier between where the bids come in and your grant funding.
Take, no, we
is.
just take out of the,
It's taking it out of savings,
Right.
yeah.
from that fund
But
only.
where we are is that we need to detail what our restricted funds can be used for.
So,
And we think we have the answer, and we think we like that answer, but we're not ready to hang it out there on it yet.
so,
But we'll know when we get closer to the bids coming in.
so by restricted funds, you mean we got a grant, we got money from somebody, but we can only use it for that purpose?
Yes, sir.
And the good news is they gave it to us for that lift station, so that's the purpose we need the money for.
In the context of this money in the water and sewer fund already, the restricted funds we're not talking about restrictions because they're grant funding. We're talking about restrictions because of statutory requirements.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about parking revenue?
Ah, okay.
Did you get that number from Otto, or did he have any input into that number?
I did that estimate, based on discussions with Jim, track history of what we had taken in, and a best estimate.
Because it went up a lot.
Well, we're gonna clear out at better than 750,000 this year.
Oh, yeah, okay. So
Wow.
Okay,
Didn't really go up a lot.
okay.
But
Yeah, because we haven't gotten.
you got less.
Yes,
50 less,
exactly. That's
but you
what-
got
that was-
longer season.
that was my
And your rate
concern.
went up, so, you
Okay.
know, we,
So we'll know a year from now.
Well,
yeah.
So you're
we-
comfortable with that?
I'm not comfortable with it.
Okay.
Because
Fair.
it's not something that we've done.
Okay.
You know, you have those variables.
Mm-hmm.
It was as high as my level, I pushed that revenue as high as I could and not feel extremely uncomfortable.
Okay.
I could not justify having it any lower than that,
Mm-hmm.
based on knowing that we're gonna finish up better than 3/4 of a million.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah,
best
that's
bad
what I-
answer you got.
I was just
That's what I
curious
got,
if you had
yeah.
used Jim for that, and it sounds like you did some
Okay.
interaction with him.
Cool.
And the other question I have on that is, why did you move it, why is it in the B part and not in the general fund?
That was a conscious decision last year when the underlying premise was that the visiting public was really were more tourist related, and that just made it up more conveniently with the B part function as it was.
Is there any difference? I mean, from a town finance perspective?
Most of the parking, no, I mean, it's
I mean, if we
it's
moved
6
it
of one
to-
and a half into the other, but it was just, it's appeared to us to be more of a functional alignment with the things that are already executed in B Park with the access and recreation, the bathrooms, the walkways, those types of things that get people to the beach. And ultimately, parking and walkways, people don't get this, is that those are transportation functions. They're really transportation functions. They're facilities, but a walkway to the beach, that's a highway.
We talked
And that
about
was
thi-
the analogy that we used to do that.
we talked about this earlier today, and my question is, could the parking money sitting in B part conceivably be moved to the general fund?
We also need to move the expenses that go along with that.
Well, that's realigning. I'm just saying if we left it alone, just the way it is, parking money sitting in B part, but for some reason we had a need for it in the general fund, is it legal to move it from B part to the general fund? Because it's not,
You
that's
can
not
spend-
tax revenue, is, I mean, can,
You could transfer money, I believe, but
Yeah.
it would be just as expeditious to spend it straight from the B Park fund. You know, if you wanted to build a walkway, or if you wanted to, pave a parking lot, it would be just as expeditious just to use that as a,
could you pave a
As a
side
facility.
street with it?
huh?
Could you pave Tarpon Drive with it?
The,
I just don't know if it's legal. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
getting into a gray area there.
Yeah, so
I would not recommend that.
Okay.
It's
So,
very, very gray with a lot of overcast and foggy at the same time.
so I would just ask this question for people to think about, because of more flexibility. If parking revenue were realigned into the general fund, you could always move that back to the B part if,
It doesn't get you anything.
You don't think so?
I don't think it gets you anything.
Okay,
It's
well-
the same money, I mean, it's the same amount of money, and there are projects, to,
so your
to
opinion
align
is
with.
basically, you don't see any value to it?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
So I have a question about that. So whatever's left, you got the 40, and whatever you don't spend with the 40% that's on the general fund only goes into the beach renourishment per your policy, right?
The unassigned available fund balance above 70%, the board decides whether they want to realign that money over to the B Park fund, or the beach and inlet.
So if you have all this money sitting over, so there was some money, let's say 500,000, I don't know if that's the exact number, but it's something like that you moved from the general fund for this year, 23 budget, into B part for the pier, which didn't happen. So shouldn't that money be moved back into the general fund?
That's what Daniel was talking about. Those
Yeah, those
transfers
transfers
have not taken place. They were budgeted.
Oh, so you
but
never
since-
moved it into
but
the B part
since-
fund?
No, those
Right.
are all end of year.
Got it. Perfect.
But since the projects didn't happen, we're going to have to de-wind the piece that was carved out to go over there.
And it
That
stays,
would-
it's part of the general
It would
fund.
save them.
Oh, perfect. I was-
But that is kind of a reciprocal yin and yang example of when you don't spend a project, it falls back into fund balance. Likewise, you wouldn't make any interfund transfers. Same,
Okay.
it's the same.
I got
law.
you. All right.
Okay, good.
That's all I want to inquire about tonight.
All right, so we'll make the detail changes. We won't do anything to doctor and the detective position in there, and we'll come back to it and rewrite and see how it goes at the Friday meeting. Is that
That's fair.
what I
Yeah.
got?
That's fair. And Heather, you'll include whatever Jeremy has in the meeting package, so we can see it?
So, yes, but,
What does Jeremy have?
what was that?
What he just handed out?
Yes,
Oh,
what
no,
he,
no, no.
I'll do that for what he handed out, but are you gonna have something to show on Wednesday? I would have to send
No,
an agenda.
y'all might as well forget about them rules there on getting stuff.
That's what I was
up
gonna
to it.
say, do
I'll
you
get
guys-
it, I'll get it done if we're lucky, if we get it Thursday before we go home for y'all.
I'm good with that.
If you want to recess this meeting until Friday's meeting at 3, then I can not have a time limit as to when I get his information out is all I was gonna
Let's
say.
do that.
Well,
And then I-
he's
and
not gonna
then-
have it ready anyway, so what difference does it
Well,
make?
he said he might have it Thursday, so if you guys, because
Oh.
I would have to do it
Yeah.
on Wednesday
Oh, okay.
otherwise.
Oh,
So
okay.
I could just, you guys could recess till 3
And if I
on
get it done.
Friday today, and I could send both Jeremy's stuff and David's stuff once he, I mean, I could send you guys Jeremy's stuff today. That's
Perfect.
not-
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, do I have to make a motion to recess? How does that work?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recess till Friday at 3.
Second. Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion.
Like I've already explained, I was, I committed attend that, and I think that would be some important topics that we all need to discuss. But, it's usually it's going to go down the same way.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No,
Is there a motion we adjourn?
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
I'm sorry, recess.
Oh,
We have
Oh,
got that.
so we're done. We're done.